Hey folks, and welcome to Truck King. Today we're looking at this, the Ford Bronco Sport Freewheeling Edition. And if you were around in the 1970s, you might remember the freewheeling styling package, and now Ford has brought it back. So in this video, we'll look at all the features on this thing, talk about the styling, I'll climb in, talk about passenger space, and then we're gonna hit the dirt and talk about how this thing handles off-road, so make sure you stay tuned. Let's take a closer look right now. So the Bronco Sport Freewheeling has its content based on the Big Bend trim, which means you're getting a standard 1.5 liter 3-cylinder turbocharged engine. This thing makes 181 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque sent through an 8-speed automatic. So this probably goes without saying, but the big deal with the Freewheeling Edition is the way it looks. You're getting this stripe package across the hood and down the sides. You're getting the unique silver painted grille with the two-tone Bronco lettering. In this case, it's white and red. 17-inch red painted wheels. Those things look cool. And yeah, the stripe package comes all the way down the side. You get the Bronco sort of etched right into the striping. Yeah, this thing stands out in a crowd. If you park this at the grocery store, you're not going to forget which vehicle is yours. So you know what? You've seen it now. Drop in the comments and let me know what you think of the styling here on the Freewheeling Edition. Let's take a look at the back seat right now of the Bronco Sport. First of all, I like to point out the baby seat situation. So we have 3 top tethers along the back, and we have 2 lower latch positions. So this is 36.9 inches of rear seat legroom, and it's plenty for me, no problem. The nice thing about the boxy design of the Bronco Sport, and especially this kind of hump in the roof, is I have loads of headroom, which isn't really generally the case in this segment when I sit in back seats, and I stand at 6'2". So yeah, tons of headroom, enough knee room, my legs don't feel too tall. This back seat is plenty big for a full-size adult, no problem. And then when it comes to amenities, we do get our own vents right there, and we get a USB-C and USB-A port down below. So yeah, you do get some power back here as well. Now let's go look at the storage. So first of all, I will show you that the glass does open independently here on the Bronco Sport, which is kind of nice. And actually, if you're utilizing the little table inside, this does give you good access. And little table, I will show you what that's all about right here. So yeah, the Bronco Sport has this second sort of deck, this little table that can be placed up here. It can be folded up if you want to only use half of it, or you can pull it out like this, or it has one little trick to it. If you loosen it, you pull it out to this position here, and you put the little legs down, it actually becomes almost like a little picnic table at the back end of your Bronco. You can lock it back in, and there you go. So yeah, you're hanging out on the beach, you want to have lunch, you're camping, you can use your little table there, which is pretty handy. I do like that. And this is 32.5 cubic feet of space behind that second row, and it's quite a bit. Honestly, it's a lot of storage, and that's nice to see, especially behind a rear seat that's also big enough for a full-size adult. So I think I'll say this more than once in this video, but the Bronco Sport from the outside looks pretty small, but on the inside it feels pretty big. I want to talk about towing and payload, especially because this is billed as an adventure vehicle, so generally you will be hauling or towing stuff with you. So we do have a 2-inch hitch receiver. On the base engine, the 1.5 liter, you're good to tow 2,000 pounds. And then we'll take a look at the door jamb sticker for payload. Here we're good for just 851 pounds of payload. And then I also want to point out, you do get this nice beefy roof rack up here. So if you do want to tie stuff onto your roof, you're ready to do that as well. Okay folks, now we're out here driving in the Bronco Sport, and we do have GOAT modes. GOAT stands for go over any terrain. So we have normal, eco, sport, slippery and sand. Right now I'm going to put it in sport mode, and from a standing start, let's feel the power. Foot to the floor. It's not bad. It's really not bad. There is noticeable turbo lag. It does take a good beat to really feel the power come on strong. But when it comes on, yeah, for what this vehicle is and at this price point, I would say that the power is well matched to this Bronco Sport. It is a small 3-cylinder. It doesn't sound the best. You can hardly hold that against it. There's basically no 3-cylinder that sounds very good. It's a little bit buzzy. But once you're up to speed and just cruising and you have foot to the floor, high RPM, you don't notice the sound. You don't notice any NVH coming out of the engine, no weird vibrations, anything like that. So all of that is a positive thing. If you don't go for that larger 2-liter, you do sacrifice a good amount of power, but I wouldn't worry about it unless you really do have a plan to tow and haul a lot of stuff. I think this 1.5 will serve you just fine. Now we'll get back to some more on-road impressions in a moment, but I do want to talk about off-road. We hit my local sandy trail and we had loads of rain just yesterday, so there was lots of water out there today, so we are splashing through some puddles. And I will say about the suspension that on-road, it has a little bit of a float to it. There's a bit of body roll. Again, not excessive, but it is there, especially compared to some of the other crossovers in this segment. But what that equals is once you get it off-road, the suspension actually takes care of you pretty well here. And my first initial impression was once I started hitting some whoops and some ruts, this thing actually feels like it belongs out here. It's obvious to me that the engineers were putting this thing together with off-road use in mind. And again, off-road might not be the right term. This is probably more of sort of a rough roader. But if you do love to kayak or hike or camp and you just need to get to the end of some, abandoned, dead-end, rough road, this is exactly the kind of vehicle you want to take. And it was noticeable to me, once again, just that the engineers obviously had that in their mind. Now, I was running it in sand mode because I was out there in the soft sand. I only had maybe once or twice where I really felt it lose traction, but the key is when you put it into those goat modes, into sand mode, it is sending the power to all of the wheels all of the time. So when it did slip, it really didn't slip for very long, and then pretty quickly the traction control sort of dealt with whatever it needed to, and I was on my way. So yeah, once you get out in the dirt, the Bronco Sport feels at home, and I'll say it once again, especially compared to a lot of the competitors in this segment, I think this thing is more designed with that sort of adventure use in mind. Looking inside, I think the freewheeling package makes this Bronco Sport fun and stylish. I love the coloration on the seats, the stitching, the red accents. Fun is the best word I can come up with when you hop in. Yeah, it just has a bit more of a light, kind of airy feel to it because the graphics are not, so serious. They're more just about having fun. And then sort of functionally, I'll say this again now that I'm in the front seat, I fit really well in here. You might think it's going to be too small, this vehicle, but it feels quite big inside thanks to this boxy design. Tons of space for 2 people to sit in these seats and not be rubbing elbows or anything like that. I still have a good amount of headroom in the front seat. So yeah, for a small vehicle, it does sort of feel bigger once you get inside, and I appreciate that. Fuel economy is another advantage of going for this smaller engine as well. Right now, we're getting 8.2 liters per 100 kilometers, which feels, pretty decent for a vehicle of this size with this much space inside, and for the amount of power that it puts out. So, there's another advantage to going for the smaller engine. Of course, obviously, you're going to save fuel. Let's talk features and pricing now. So I mentioned the freewheeling edition is based on the Bronco Big Bend, which is an entry-level trim. So you're not getting a ton of content straight out of the box, but the model you're looking at here today in this video, we do have a bunch of options. Things like Ford Co-Pilot 360 Assist, that brings along adaptive cruise control and a whole suite of other safety options. We also have a convenience pack, which brings along things like our heated front seats, seats and wireless cell phone charging. So this Bronco Sport does feel well contented. There's nothing in here that really feels like it's missing. But then, of course, we have to get to what does it cost? Well, for this one, you see in this video, you're talking about a hair over $49,000 Canadian. It does feel a little bit expensive, but I think that, like usual, and we say this in a lot of videos, that's just sort of par for the course these days. Well, folks, we have come to the end of this one. Now, I'm going to come back to a word I used earlier to sort of summarize this Bronco Sport, and especially the freewheeling edition, and that is fun. It just feels more fun, more playful, and yes, more adventurous than some of the other vehicles in this segment. So if that's what you're looking for, more of that fun personality, you got to check out the Bronco Sport, and especially this freewheeling edition, because once again, you will not go unnoticed driving around with these stripes on your vehicle. So that is it for this one. Now I want you guys to go below, let me know what you think of the Bronco Sport and the freewheeling edition. As always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we're testing next. See ya.